Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming and of course more stories too. I recently covered some statistics that came out via Monster Hunter Asia, that sanctioned community for the Monster Hunter series. They revealed the stats of Rise, the 14 weapons and how much they actually are used currently, and also the most popular buddies and quests. It was fun to look at and quite surprising at times. So I was very happy to see something similar from Monster Hunter Stories. The Monster Hunter Japan community had a simple but interesting poll. What is the most popular monstie in the game? If you could just pick one monstie to run, who would it be? Well, the Japanese community mostly aligns with what I thought, so let's take a look. Interestingly, the vote had 45 placements, meaning while there are a lot more monsties in the game than that, some monsties had such low relevance or just none at all. But before we get into the most interesting placements, there's something I want to talk about. The absolute struggle that Google Translate has had with these monster names. Look at this, we've got bloody Dino Boldo for Glavenus. Dino Boldo. What happened there? Or better, Evil Joe. It's not wrong, by the way, when you think about it. Devil Joe is pretty evil, but the absolute peak of this translation error has to be Kezu, who is apparently just called Full. Does anyone know how this can happen? Like, I'm wondering, is the original name for Kezu something to do with being hungry or even being full? Or is this just Google Translate just breaking apart? There's a few other gems like Kirin, who is apparently now just Giraffe, or Puke, who's been dubbed Puke, which is kind of gross. Anyway, me and Josh found that very funny, but let's take a look at the results of the poll. The poll does take place after the new update, which of course has the 3 new deviants, but let's look at a few interesting placements before we actually look at the top 10. Literally at the bottom of the pack, 45th place was Red Kezu. I'm kind of interested by this because people voted for Red Kezu. Kezu is a great monstie throughout the story. While he easily gets outpaced late game by other Thunder types, he certainly has his place, and he's also a fan favorite, especially in Japan. Kezu actually made it to the 30s, but for some reason, Red Kezu actually made it onto this list. A bigger surprise, though, is how low Basil placed, who's right next to Red Kezu at 44th place. I'm pretty sure Josh was running the Bomber for a good while too. Certainly don't think he's a bad monster, and I thought he was way more popular than that. 2 other shocks as strong Elder Dragons. Teostra and Kirin both have low placements. Teostra coming at 35th and Kirin at 31st. I personally run a Kirin in my party. I have a friend who runs Teo, and while they might not exactly be peak meta, they are very strong and good at what they do and have some of the coolest attacks in the game. But I guess if I really had to pick just one monstie, I wouldn't be picking either of them, but I still thought they'd be higher. Frankly, what the hell is Kulu doing at 29th place? He's above Teo and Kirin and he's a glorified big chicken with a rock. Even Aptonos is higher at 28th. This is wild. Who's voting for this? To be fair, part of the fun of stories is the right of channeling, I guess. And that does allow us to create insane versions of monsters that otherwise shouldn't be as strong as that. So maybe these two are in the same bracket. I'm glad to see Puke higher up though at 18th. Puke is a fan favorite for just being a cutie. His tongue thing that he does to make an umbrella to protect you from the poison in his kinship is very sweet. But now then, let's take a look at the top 10 and the runners up to that. Just missing out on top 10 was shockingly Brachydios and Bloodbath Diablos. I run Bloodbath and I know a lot of people who do because he's so strong and reliable. While Brachy is another fan favorite, Josh is running him as a legit PvP option, having basically the best kinship animation in the whole series. So you gotta wonder who pushed those two out of the top 10. Well, for 10th, 9th and 8th, there's only one that shocks me. At 10th place, we have the new Hellblade Glavenus, a powerhouse of a monstie and extremely cool. And then Nagakuga at 8th, which is an obvious choice. Few monsties are as cool as Naga, right? And I ran him through the whole story as my main speed monster. And obviously the stealth skill is super rare and super strong, so it just makes sense. But what doesn't make sense is the 9th place, Rathalos. Why is Rathalos number 9? Why is he so high up? And this image is just a normal Rathalos, right? Not Ratha from the story. I am wondering though, maybe that's what people were voting for. And don't get me wrong, Rathalos is very good and always will be. He is popular, but I didn't think he was that popular as a monstie. The next set though has another surprise. Number 7 is Mizutsune, one of the best water type monsties that you can find with some good genes too. And of course our new Mizu is a lot more relevant as a viable option for your party. So this 7th spot actually goes to the deviant, Soulseer. Of course that makes total sense. Until we look at who comes 4th on this poll, regular Mizutsune. How did this happen? Sure, Mizu is one of the most popular monsters and I was really happy to see him back in Rise myself during that demo. demo period. Maybe it's because people were just voting on Mizu in both his forms rather than what's technically strongest in the game currently, and Solsei has just come out at the time of this poll, so maybe people just weren't voting for that one specifically. Otherwise, for number 6, it is the Thunder Puppy, the best boy, the Zinogre. Just regular Zinogre at that, by the way, not Stygian or Thunderlord, who came 13th and 16th. I'm 100% a Zinogre person. I love his theme, I love his vibe, the hunter equipment you get from him is top tier. He is a classic monster in the Monster Hunter series in my eyes. And their counterpart, Nagakuga, is matched well here as well at 5th place, thanks to Silverwind Nagakuga. So Mizu and Nagakuga both get their original form and their deviant in this top 10. Silverwind is a bit older and tougher with that nice white-blue pattern and the even cooler kinship attack animation, so this one makes sense. But now we are at the big boys. We're at the top 3 spots. Number 3 is the flagship of World, an Elder Dragon Eater. It's Nergigante, my favorite flagship out of the whole series, and the Monstie me and Josh actually used for our max damage in one-hit build recently. A spiky king and one of the coolest monsters they've ever created. I love Nergigante and I'm glad that he's at least top 3. But then we have 2nd place, and this time it is another deviant over the original. Bolt Reaver Asylos is extremely popular, taking the 2nd place spot. Asylos is my favorite of the Fated 4, and Bolt Reaver is even better. The whole horn dragonfly thing is only cooler when he powers up into his true blue visuals. It also helps that he's incredibly strong in terms of meta. So I guess it's no wonder that he's so popular in both design and mechanics, but who is taking the top spot? This one was no surprise to me. The Monstie that I would have guessed as the most popular, most commonly used in a party, well, I would have guessed Velcana. And yep, I mean, of course, right? She's just straight up the strongest ice type. She was the best technical option we had in base stories, and she's also a great option just to have as a flying Monstie too. So the perfect combination of a strong monster to run for meta purposes, while also being a highly coveted monster just because she's cool. So yeah, no shock that she's number 1 to me. What do you guys think? Would you have put someone else at number 1? And who would that be? Personally, I think Bloodbath Diablo should have been at least top 10. If we were to cut away the 2 Monsties that had a themselves and a deviant version in the top 10, we would have had 2 more spots. So I would have liked Bloodbath Diablos, right? But then also Rajang, who isn't even top 20 on this poll. He's been in my squad from the moment I could get him. Yeah, a lot of surprises here. Let me know your thoughts anyway, but until next time, I've been Hollow, you've been you. Thanks for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.